What's up YouTube, Saf here on SuperSaf TV, and in this video we're going to be doing a SuperSaf style camera comparison between the iPhone 8 Plus and the iPhone 7 Plus. So we're going to see how much of an improvement there is on the iPhone 8 Plus, if any, and then we'll be doing lots of tests for video, audio as well. If you look out for the audio icon in the corner of the screen, that will indicate to you which device the audio is coming from, and we will be switching between these two to give you guys a better idea, and we'll be doing lots of low light tests and everything as well. So we're currently using the front facing cameras on both devices, just taking a bit of a walk, and we are going to be turning that into a run to see the stabilization from the front facing camera. Still filming from both. See the dynamic range as well. So you can see that we've got the space center here at the back. Let me know what you guys think. So now we're filming from the rear facing cameras at 4K 30 frames per second. And both of these do have a telephoto camera, so we can switch between the two. Transition is pretty smooth. The problem is neither of these have optical image stabilization when you are using the telephoto camera, unfortunately. So let's see how they cope with a bit of walking. And now we are back to wide, and we'll take a bit of a walk at 4K with the wide angle camera. So now we are at 1080p to look at the stabilization from both cameras. So we're just taking a bit of a walk, and now let's go ahead and run. Now we're indoors in good room lighting with the iPhone 7 Plus, testing out the autofocus. Seems to be doing pretty well. Same lighting on the iPhone 8 Plus. Also seems to be doing pretty well. Can't really notice too much of a difference. So that was the video. Now before we move on to images, looking at what we're working with here. In terms of specs, things are absolutely identical. We've got 7 megapixels with an f2.2 aperture for the front facing cameras, and dual 12 megapixel cameras on the rear. We have the primary camera with an f1.8 aperture and optical image stabilization, and then a telephoto camera with an f2.8 aperture. Now improvements mainly seem to be on the inside with the image sensors as well as the image processing. But we'll see how well these do. Now, if you do want to customize the look of your iPhone 7 or 8 Plus, then definitely check out our sponsor for this video, Dbrand. I will be linking to them in the description below. Both devices have also been updated to the latest software version available at the time of this video. Finally, I have not tweaked any settings on either of these. They have all been set to default, including HDR, which has been set on auto, and this is to keep things as fair as possible. So initially kicking off with some selfies, very identical here, very difficult to tell a difference. The colors are slightly better on the iPhone 8 Plus, I think. If you look towards my face, so we've got a little bit of yellow on the iPhone 7 Plus, but really nothing too major between these two. Here, however, we do have better dynamic range on the iPhone 8 Plus. The iPhone 7 Plus doesn't look so great in terms of the colors because it's not being able to maintain that much color in the shadows. So definite win here for the iPhone 8 Plus for the front facing camera. Now moving on to selfies in low light, this is quite interesting. The iPhone 7 Plus seems to have ramped up the ISO, which has given a very grainy image, but it's brighter compared to the iPhone 8 Plus. The iPhone 8 Plus, however, is cleaner and has maintained a little bit more color, but it's not as bright. So I guess it's going to come down to your personal preference on this one. Using the front-facing flash, however, the iPhone 8 Plus is definitely better here. colors are better maintained. On the iPhone 7 Plus, just a little bit too bright and washed out in my opinion. Now moving on to the rear cameras, so initially using the primary camera for a macro shot, both are doing very good here, but very little difference between these two as well. I really can't tell them apart. Yes, I did check to make sure that they were both taken from the different iPhones. Maybe slightly better detail in the highlights of the iPhone 8 Plus, but very little difference between these two. Another outdoor wide shot, again very similar. Slightly better details in the shadows on the iPhone 8 Plus I think, but it's still very difficult to tell. Using the telephoto camera on both devices here, and I think the iPhone 8 Plus is a little bit more vibrant and also has more contrast, especially if you look towards the text at the bottom, National Space Center. It's a little bit more red on the iPhone 8 Plus compared to the iPhone 7 Plus. Another shot using the rear facing camera, once again very similar. And if we do use the telephoto camera, the iPhone 8 Plus, once again more contrast and more vibrant. iPhones generally tend to be more on the natural side, but it looks like Apple is now going more towards that vibrant side, which lots of other manufacturers seem to go for, to give a more pleasing image to the eye. Now here is a very interesting image in terms of the situation and to really test out the dynamic range. And once again, the iPhone 8 Plus does seem to be doing much better here. You've got much better details in those shadows, and it's much more vibrant once again. The color in the sky as well as the green in the grass is a lot more punchier. Now moving on to the portrait mode. This is one of my favorite modes on the iPhones, and both are doing great here. You can see that we've got a nice shallow depth of field effect, and the edges also look very good on both. Slight differences in color, and the iPhone 8 Plus also looks a little cleaner. This is much more apparent when we go in 100%. Now the light was dipping slightly at this point, so it was coming towards sunset, and you can see that the iPhone 8 Plus is definitely doing a better job here. The iPhone 7 Plus just a tad grainy here. Another shot as well, once again both doing absolutely great. But once again, when we go in 100%, you can see that the iPhone 8 Plus is doing a much cleaner job. On the iPhone 7 Plus, we do have some noise. Now here is a very interesting test. So I actually did this test again in direct sunlight, and for this test the iPhone 7 Plus actually is doing a better job because it is using HDR. It looks like the iPhone 8 Plus has not used HDR in this image. Remember, it was set on automatic, so I was letting the phone decide when to use HDR, and as a result of that it seems to have decided not to use HDR in this situation, and that is very apparent towards my face. You can see that it is blown out quite a bit, and the iPhone 7 Plus doing a much better job here. Hopefully these issues will be fixed with a software update. Now moving on to low light, this is where we'll see more improvements on the iPhone 8 Plus. A much cleaner image on the iPhone 8 Plus. If you look towards the sky, you can see that the iPhone 7 Plus is really struggling there, and we do have a lot of noise. The 8 Plus seems to have better maintained those colors as well. One more test in low light outdoors, and once again 8 Plus doing much better here. You have a much cleaner image, and it's also sharper with better colors. So we do have some improvements here in low light for the iPhone 8 Plus. So there we have it guys, the iPhone 7 Plus versus the iPhone 8 Plus SuperSaf style camera comparison. When it came to images from the front facing camera, we did have better dynamic range on the iPhone 8 Plus. But for video, the iPhone 7 Plus seemed to have better dynamic range. Now this is something that I've noticed quite a bit on the iPhone 8 Plus. It just seems to be inconsistent when it comes to dynamic range. I wish Apple just switched this on by default for all situations. And if this is something that you don't believe me on, Erica Griffin has also noticed this and she has tweeted about it, so you can check out her experience too. Now when it came to outdoor images, I think both were very good. Not a huge deal of difference, but you did have more contrast with more vibrant colors on the iPhone 8 Plus. And also better dynamic range overall. For video, quality wise, both were very similar. I really couldn't tell too much of a difference between these two. The iPhone 8 Plus, however, does come with 4K 60 frames a second, which is something we can't really test in this video. And we also have slow motion at 1080p on the iPhone 8 Plus, which is another advantage. For the portrait mode, the iPhone 8 Plus did provide a cleaner image with less noise. But the HDR once again does need some work, and I do believe that Apple do need to fix the software in here so it better detects HDR. The iPhone 7 Plus actually seemed to do a better job for HDR in the shot that you saw in direct sunlight. Now we do have a studio lighting mode which is in beta right now on the iPhone 8 Plus, and this is going to let you scroll through some different lighting effects. Some of these actually do work pretty well, but others like the studio lighting don't actually work too well for me right now. Once again, I want to emphasize that this is in beta, so it will improve with time. When it came to low light, the iPhone 8 Plus has definitely improved. We've got much less noise and we've got a cleaner image with better colors overall. For the audio, I really couldn't tell much of a difference. We've still got mono audio recording on both, and switching between the two, they sounded pretty much the same to me. So overall, we do have some improvements here on the iPhone 8 Plus, mainly in low light, some areas in dynamic range, as well as the additional video options such as 4K 60 and 1080p 240. But is it enough to upgrade for the cameras from the iPhone 7 Plus to the 8 Plus? I wouldn't think so. That's what I think anyway. What do you think? Definitely drop me a comment below and let me know. If you want to see lots of images from lots of different devices, then give me a follow on Instagram. I'm at SuperSaf TV. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And if you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe and switch on notifications. There's lots more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.